Now 10th class students will be discussing the reflection of concepts questions of acids, bases and salts. One by one we are going to discuss. So first question of reflection of concepts is what is neutralization reaction? He is asking us to give two examples. So we have to give two examples for the neutralization reaction. So I will be giving you the briefing of these questions. The rest you can take out from the workbook. So what is neutralization reaction? Base plus acid. Base plus acid gives rise to salt plus water. Base plus acid gives rise to salt plus water. So we will be going with the standard base what we take always. NaOH. So what is OH here? OH indicates that this is base plus HCl gives rise to NaCl plus H2O. So this NaCl is salt, H2O is water, HCl is acid. Clear? Here you have to write aqueous, sodium chloride is also aqueous. This is your liquid, water. So what is next example? Next example you can take different base. Suppose magnesium or calcium. Magnesium hydroxide you take. MgOH taken twice plus HCl again or else H2SO4 or I will be taking with the HCl only gives rise to MgCl2, take it as 2HCl gives plus 2H2O plus 2H2O. This magnesium chloride is a salt, this is water, this is the acid and this is base. Copied. First question. This is question number 1. Yeah, coming to the next question. The process of adding water to acid or base is exothermic or endothermic, he is asking us. So this is your question number 2. Question number 2. So what we are doing here is, it is always suggested to add acid to water. Always add acid to water. At this process, when you touch the bottom of the test tube while adding acid to the water, Okay, you will feel that the test tube is hot. So heat is released, or you can say generated. I will be using the word released. So heat is released. So this is your exothermic process. This is exothermic process. But adding acid to water means mixing of water to any substance is referred as dilution. Is referred as dilution. What do you call this process? This process is called as dilution. Adding water means dilution. Copy this one. Now question. After this one, question number 3. He is asking us, distilled water does not conduct electricity. Okay. So first point is what? Distilled water is nothing but your pure form of water. Pure form of water. Okay. So when I say pure form of water, does it contains any solute or ions? No, it does not contains ions. It doesn't have ions. Have ions. Okay. So it doesn't conduct electricity. It doesn't conduct electricity. It doesn't conduct electricity. So this is your simplest answer what you can write. What do you mean by distilled water? Distilled water is nothing but pure form of water. It does not have any solute or ions present in it. So it does not conduct electricity. Copy it. Now coming to the fourth question. Question number 4. See here, as per the Arrhenius theory, acidic nature of any substance is due to H plus ions. Is due to H plus ions. In bracket you can write H3O plus, because individual H plus ion does not exist. Okay, it is always attached with the water molecule. So H3O plus ions. Acidic nature is due to this. Dry HCl. There are no H plus ions. Okay now. Wet HCl means it is aqueous in nature. It means water is added. Has H plus ions. That is the reason why it turns blue litmus paper to red. That is the reason why it turns blue litmus paper to red. It is acidic in nature. Copy this one. This we have done activity also. Now coming to the next question, he is asking us to draw a diagram showing that acids conduct electricity. For this we have to draw the diagram. Question number 5. So first what I have taken a beaker, okay, here. So acid I have taken. You can take any acid or lemon juice or whatever you want to take, but it should be acid, okay. So I have taken sulfuric acid, H2SO4. So in this one I have dipped two metal rods which are electrodes, okay. From this one I have taken the wires and then I connected a battery, then a bulb. This bulb glows. So this is the diagram which you have to draw for acids conducting electricity. In the simplest form, you can draw this diagram like this. Here, see here, circuit is not complete, but the current passes through the acid and the bulb glows. In book, he has taken AC plug, but children of your age are not allowed to play with the plug points. Okay students, now coming to the question number 6. It is about the acid rain. How it affects the aquatic life or marine life also you can call it as. This is your question number 6. Okay. Acid rain water flow in rivers. Okay, it decreases the pH value. It decreases the pH value. Animals and humans are pH sensitive. So what is this word sensitive meaning? Means if there is a change in the pH value of the water, we cannot, it is not suitable for drinking or for the fishes to remain in that for a longer period of time. Okay, so pH sensitive means a little change in the pH value is not suitable for humans and animals to survive. Hence, when the acid rain water flows into the rivers, it decreases the pH value. That is the reason why it is not possible for the marine life to exist when the pH value decreases. Copy it. Now coming to the 7th question, he is asking us about the baking powder. So what happens when you heat the baking powder? When you heat the baking powder, you get salt plus water plus carbon dioxide. Salt plus water plus carbon dioxide. So we all know that carbon dioxide is a gas. The gas escapes from the duff. Suppose bread duff is there. So this the gas when which it escapes from the duff, what happens here? It leaves the gap. So when you take a bread piece, it will have many gaps in it. Okay, same thing with the dosa duff also. Okay, this gap is created because CO2 is escaped. Previously, this space was occupied by carbon dioxide gas. Now what happened? That carbon dioxide gas, upon heating it, escaped, leaving a hole. So this is all the concept which is behind the baking powder. Copy it, and if you want, you can draw this diagram, or you can take the bread piece and observe why there is a gap. This is question number 7, students. And because of these gaps between them, the bread appears as spongy. This is question number 7. Now the last question of the concepts, reflection of concepts, is uses of washing soda. And first we will be discussing about the washing soda here. Question number 8. Used in glass, paper industry, and this washing soda is also used in making borax. Borax is a chemical which we use in washing powder. He is telling me to give 2 to 8 users. So these 2 are the prime users. The later on users or the more number of users, you can check it in the textbook or the previous videos which I discussed. Okay, these are the uses of washing soda, students. Washing soda is used in glass and paper industries, and it is also used to make borax, which is your washing powder, which is used in washing powders. Whether you take Ariel, Tide or Rin, it will have borax. So the next one is baking soda. As the name itself says that it is baking soda, so the first use is in bakeries. Okay, and it is also used as mild antiseptic. These 2 are the uses of the baking soda. So today's homework will be same. This reflection of concepts, all the questions you have to write as homework from the workbook. From workbook. Okay? Now I think you have completed writing part. So here now I am going to present you with the few activities related to the reflection of concepts. Okay. So do watch these activities after writing all this part. Then you will be getting a pure a very good clarification about the question and answers given in the assets basis side solves. Okay.
To understand how acids react with bases, we take about 2 milliliters of sodium hydroxide solution in a test tube and add a couple of drops of phenolphthalein solution to it. What do you notice about the color? Yes, the color of the solution turns pink. The indicator phenolphthalein is colorless in acidic solutions but goes pink in basic solutions. As sodium hydroxide is a base, the indicator turns pink. Now to see how bases react with acids, we add hydrochloric acid to this drop by drop. What do you observe? We see that the solution turns colorless again. So the colorless base turned pink and then again turned colorless after an acid was added. What does this prove? We can say that the effect of a base is neutralized or nullified by an acid. Does the reverse also happen? Will an acid be neutralized by a base? To find out, let's add a few drops of sodium hydroxide back to the above mixture. And yes, the pink color of the phenolphthalein reappears. That's because the effect of acid is neutralized by the base. So the reaction taking place here can be written like this. Sodium chloride is nothing but a salt. So an acid and a base react to give us salt and water. And guess what such a reaction is called? It's called a neutralization reaction. A base reacts with acid to give us salt and water. In a similar way, calcium chloride is formed along with water when hydrochloric acid reacts with calcium hydroxide. Can you think of a more practical reaction? When we have acidity, our stomach produces excess acid, which is nothing but hydrochloric acid. And this acid is very harmful for the walls of our stomach, which is why we get that burning sensation. So to neutralize the acid, what we use is an antacid. Antacids, as you would have guessed, are nothing but bases. The antacid reacts with the base to give salt and water. And that gives us relief. Let's first understand what dilute and concentrated mean generally. The most important thing about these terms is that they are relative. What do I mean by relative? Here are two beakers on the screen, one on the left and one on the right, and both have 100 milliliters of some colorless solvent. Now in the beaker on the left, I add 20 milliliters of some red solute. And on the right, I add 50 milliliters of the same red solute. In this case, we say that the solution on the right is concentrated and the one on the left is dilute. We are looking at these two relative to each other. And you can see that the concentrated solution is more red in color as compared to the dilute one. This is stronger, we can say. Let me give you another example. We take two empty beakers again, both with 100 milliliters of some solution. The first beaker has 20 milliliters of solute and 80 milliliters of solvent. And the second one has 25 milliliters of solute and 75 milliliters of solvent. Which solution is more concentrated according to you? Yes, it's the second one, because the proportion of solute is more in the second beaker. Now that you know what dilute and concentrated mean, let's move on to understanding what dilute and concentrated acids and bases are. In cases of acids, water is considered to be a solvent and the acid added to the water is the solute. So we have one beaker on the screen here with some water and we add acid to it. As the amount of acid I am adding to the beaker is increasing, the solution is getting more and more concentrated. Now let me ask you an interesting question. When I'm mixing acid and water, should we add water to the acid or should we add acid to the water? To know the answer, what we should know is that the process of dissolving an acid or a base in water is highly exothermic, which means a lot of heat is generated. Now, if we add water to the acid, the heat generated may cause the mixture to splash out, which may cause severe burns. And the glass container which contains the solution may also crack due to excessive heating. You'd probably argue that the same would happen when acid is added to the water, right? Not really, and let me explain why. When we add acid to the water, the reaction will still be exothermic, but the water is a very good absorber of heat. Yes, unlike the acid, the water absorbs the heat. And that is why adding acid to water is better than doing it the other way around. But remember, the acid must be added very slowly, drop by drop, and we should constantly stir the solution. Because if we add a lot of acid directly to water, the heat generated will be so large that even water will not be able to absorb the heat.